I really wanted to love Florence, but I didn't. At least, not at first. Because within our first few hours here, something happened. And it made me feel so disappointed and unwelcome. But I believe you can't truly fall in love with a person unless you know who they really are. And I think the same goes for cities. So come with me to discover Florence, the city that challenged me, surprised me, and maybe, just maybe, won my heart over. This is the version of Florence that no postcard ever shows you. We went to grab dinner at a popular sandwich shop, but when I asked my mom what she wanted to eat and she spoke in Chinese, the worker imitated her. Okay. Very good, very close. Can I get two numero one? This might not seem like a big deal to some people, but he mocked our Chinese while we were having a private conversation, which felt jarring and disrespectful in a new city. And I felt responsible for bringing my parents here. I wasn't sure how I was going to love Florence after this. 도저히 안 나. We stayed near the most iconic building in the city, the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. And we woke up late, so the lines were already pretty long. But even from the outside, it was gorgeous. Next to the church is a cute little paper shop, and it's not a normal shop because it uses ancient Florentine techniques to create the marbled paper.
It's a very long technique because we have a big tab with the glue inside.
Yeah.
And then we put the colors on the glue. We have different tools and we make by hand all the pattern.
It's the perfect souvenir to bring back, and I'm still using this notebook to this very day. And then we went to explore the city. We went to Basilica di San Lorenzo, which looks unfinished. Apparently Michelangelo was supposed to finish it, but never got around to it. But even though the outside looks sort of bland, this is one of the most iconic churches, and the powerful Medici family of Florence used to use this as a spiritual base, along with some of the artifacts that they would have used when they were alive. But I was still struggling to find a connection to Florence, so I went to do one of the most iconic things in Florence. The Basilica di San Lorenzo is also really close to the leather market, and buying leather is one of the things to do when you're in Florence. But this place was a bit disappointing. Most of the stores there seemed to have the same mass-produced product, and it was really hard to tell whether the pricing was fair. I did also like these bag charms though, because they were so cute. But they were a bit expensive at €7 for the small ones. But what I did like was the food market inside. There were so many different shops and way too many things to eat. And we particularly liked this dry fruit shop, which even sold dried pomelo. I also bought a couple of bottles of vinegar and got a bit more than I bargained for. It was probably a bad day to be wearing white. And then we went to Officina Profuma, Farmaceutica di Santa Maria Novella. And this is one of the oldest pharmacies in the world, but they're more well known for their perfumes now. There was a bit of a line, but this place was worth it. And I think this is where I really started to get excited about Florence. There's a secret room to the right that a lot of people miss. But this is one of the most beautiful parts of the store. I mean, would you just look at that roof? There are so many different perfumes here, but I knew I had to get the Angels of Florence because it's one of their signatures, but also we're in Florence. And when in Florence, you go to see the sunset at Piazzale Michelangelo. And one of the cool things about Florence, which I really liked, is that it's a walking city. And that means it takes about 30 minutes tops to get anywhere. But I'd recommend budgeting for longer because there are so many cool shops to see. And honestly, I'd hate to admit it, but shopping is the way to my heart. Something that people don't tell you about is that you need to work for the sunset views here. And it's about 30 minutes of uphill walking hell. Honestly, when I mentioned Florence challenged me, this may have been my most challenging moment. And it felt so crowded at the top that I started questioning whether this view would be worth it or if it was just another tourist hotspot. But if you manage to find a spot on the steps, the sunset is incredible, even on a cloudy day. But I have to warn you, the steps are pretty packed. A lot of that is forgotten as soon as the sun sets, and it's super romantic, even in the crowd. And it was so nice to see a newlywed couple join us as we all cheered together. And for the first time in Florence, I felt community. After the magical evening, I felt more optimistic about Florence, and I decided to visit a bookstore, which was also a cinema. But even though I knew it would be grand, nothing prepared me for this. Odeon Cinema actually used to be a palace, but now people come here to study and work, and of course, watch movies. Am I a sucker for pretty things? Apparently, yeah. And then we went to the Uffizi, and this might not be the biggest museum in the world, but when you're inside, it feels like it, because there are rooms inside rooms inside rooms, and it's really easy to get lost unless you plan your route. It is worth it to come here though, to see Birth of Venus. There's also a lot of other art that could keep you there for the whole day, but when you've only got 3 days in Florence, you need to see the Ponte Vecchio. Ponte Vecchio literally means old bridge. And this is a very practical name because it is the oldest bridge in Florence. And it's also the prettiest as well. It's so pretty that even Hitler didn't want to destroy it during World War II. On the bridge, it's filled with high-end jewelry stores, and it's great for if you want to take away a fancy souvenir. But what people don't tell you is that there's a secret corridor inside the bridge built just for the Medici family to walk in, so they wouldn't have to mingle with the peasants. And I don't blame them, because we almost got pickpocketed at Ponte Vecchio. But my mum was lucky that she was carrying this bag. The bridge is definitely nicer from further away though. So I'm going to show you one of the best vantage points of the Ponte Vecchio. Picto Bistro and Bar is a great spot to stop for a drink, and it's next to a public spot which has a great vantage point of the Ponte Vecchio. We were also lucky to catch it during golden hour, and the bridge literally glowed, and this was definitely my postcard moment of Florence. We had a quick sandwich at Panini Volanti, which turned out to be the best sandwich that we ate in Florence. And we also tried the wine window, which turned out to be a bit of a bad experience because we waited about half an hour for some Aperols. But you can hear about it in my other video. And then we made a last-minute decision to go and see David at Academia Gallery. And it was pretty cool to see David in the flesh, but the place was really packed. And honestly, it seems to be a really common theme with the museums. Finally, on day 3, we visited the Duomo, and it was sort of weird visiting the most iconic church in Florence on the last day, but we were surprisingly underprepared for the line to be so long. You definitely need to wake up early for this. And inside the church, you can see a beautiful painting on the inside of the Duomo. I didn't fully appreciate it at that time, but when they first started building the Duomo, no one knew how they would build the dome, but they just kept at it, and over a century later, Brunelleschi had a solution. And to this day, we still don't know how he did it. And on a deeper level, what I took away from this was, Sometimes you don't know how your life will turn out, and you won't know how to get to your end goal, but you just have to start and keep building and keep learning, and one day you'll just figure it out, because if you don't quit, you can't fail. I have to admit, by the end, I sort of liked Florence, but maybe love was too strong of a word. The crowds were still not my thing, but I had grown to appreciate Florence for what it was. But if you're hungry for more, you might want to watch this video. And if you like this, please leave a like and subscribe for more adventures.